You can hear me well, Sewe?
Yeah, I can hear you. So, Sankara, I don't understand what is happening to Sankara, but Wakili, if you can jump in and tell us something to do with the task force that the president formed last week, but we understand that there's a high court judgment whereby it has been suspended for some times. So I don't know what is the importance of that task force. If you can get me, Wakili.
Well, thank you very much, Kevin, for that question. And I want to respond to it from a point of view.
Sewe, seems you are losing me. I was here. I was asking if you can hear me. I don't know whether
yes,
you
Sankara,
can hear me.
we can hear you.
Sankara, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, let me hold Wakili a little bit. Kennedy.
Yes.
Probably there is something we were discussing, and Wakili has given us his thoughts on the importance of dialogue. Do we need another dialogue in Kenya?
Well, thank you. I don't think it is necessary for dialogue. Before we can speak of dialogue, let us ask ourselves what necessitates the dialogue. What is it that the warring parties are contesting against? Is it something that warrants a dialogue, or is it something that can be executed without necessarily sitting around tables? Because we understand and we know history is replicated. In this country, a lot of commissions have been set. A lot of constitutional commissions have been set, task force, etc. They've been tasked with responsibilities from out of historical injustices, but none of them has ever been to fruition. So it's not really possible for us to dialogue. If the one, I think it is whatever it is that the warring party as Gen Zs want. I would ask, why do we need to dialogue for you to scrap off the office of the Prime Cabinet Secretary? It is unconstitutional. The president has used the executive orders to usurp the constitution by creating non-existent constitutional offices. I mean, contributing to the elephant in the house, ballooning wage bill, bloated executive, and the revenue target mismatches, because we are spending much of our money in paying people. We spend 46% of our revenue to pay salaries, as opposed to the 35 global target that is economically bearable to any country. So do we really need to sit down for us to take tea, get some allowances, take people's money again, for us to have some of these things implemented? We doesn't really need that.
Sewe, sorry, we can't seem to hear you.
Oh, basically, my name was muted. You can hear me now, Joy?
Yes, go ahead.
What I was trying to say
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. So I want to pose this question to both of you, Wakili and Kennedy. We've seen after when the opposition leader, or rather Raila Odinga, said that we need dialogue in Kenya, we've seen a backlash coming, especially from the online platform. What does this backlash mean to maybe the general public, and especially the young people of this country? Maybe I can start with you, Akili, and then Sankara, you can jump into it.
Well, the youth of this country are generally frustrated and tired and angry, because the leadership of the government of Kenya for a very long time has tended to ignore the citizens. It has tended to organize committees and task forces where issues are discussed and nothing is implemented. If you look at the reports that have reached the office of the president, including since, let me say, when Kibaki took office, a lot of reports have reached the table of the president. A lot of reports reached the president during Kibaki's time. A lot of reports reached the president during Uhuru's time. And some reports have already reached the president's desk during President Ruto's term. So the concern with the youth is, why are you diverting our attention from the issues that need to be addressed? Because we are talking about issues of wage bill. There are those offices, unconstitutional offices, those offices that are not supposed to be financed. And we see public resources being directed to these offices. There's a lot of misappropriation and misuse of public funds for different reasons. And if you look at some of the triggers to the peaceful procession among the young people, you will notice that we were at a time when a certain office holder was complaining that they had not received financing to purchase new vehicles for a certain period of time. And then, and that is an office that is actively in government. And then there is another office that, or former office that, again, was requesting for the same. So the question among the young people is, you guys are fighting for vehicles, and us, we are starving. We are hungry and starving. Why are you fighting for vehicles and leisure while we don't have food on the table? So even the fact that we are seeing our national political leaders coming together and just...
I can't hear Wakili.
Oh, apologies. I don't know. Joy, Kevin, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
And Wakili is also...
Sankara, probably we have an issue from your end.
Sankara. Okay, Wakili, go on.
Okay, so the fact that
haven't been able to listen to Wakili, but I can pick it. I can remember your question. So you were asking the backlash that the opposition leaders met today, having spoken with the word "we, the people, embrace dialogue."
Yes. Okay.
I would confidently that Raila Odinga needs to boycott. It's that time to boycott this thing. I mean, it is just nauseating seeing Raila speaking of us, we being ready to dialogue. Dialogue over what? If dialogue has been his political ladder since 1997, we are saying no to the dialogue today because we know Raila Odinga, William Ruto, Uhuru Kenyatta, all these guys, these are political cousins. They will always appear to be on warring sides during elections. But immediately one of them is elected, I can tell you for a fact, these guys hit well with FT medical allowances. They have posh cars, security, everything. So it is the movement you saw today, or the move was actually a shaken political kingdom. A kingdom that has survived on oppressing the people of Kenya for decades and decades. It is time that they felt that there is a fresh movement coming in, a movement that is so organic in nature, that has no political infiltration and is purely or purposefully pursuing accountability when it comes to governance and expenditure of public revenue, especially fiscal discipline, and something that Kenya Kwanza has really missed. You see, before the finance bill was tabled, the Auditor General, Office of the Auditor General, warned the government that the tax revenue targets were unrealistic. And setting attainable and realistic revenue targets amounts to fiscal discipline. an aspect that Kenya Kwanza regime has clearly ignored. And therefore, dialogue for now is not an alternative. The alternative is clear. We want, and at this point, we must transition from the entrenched leadership that has long dominated our institutions to a new cadre of young, dynamic individuals, who possesses the energy, the innovative thinking, and contemporary perspectives necessary to navigate the complexities of our modern world. The shift is very crucial for fostering, the progressive change that every Kenyan wants, embracing the technological advancement and also addressing the evolving challenges that our societies face on a daily basis. So we are speaking of the future of youth. Today we have the face of any young person at the presser. So the future of youthful vigor and pressure leadership. We not only rejuvenate our organization structure, but it should also ensure that responsiveness is mounted towards or forward thinking approach and governance. So we know very well that the political class that has been in existence has been created in a way to suppress the voice of the majority. And I equate whatever it is that is happening in Kenya today to the famous French Revolution of 1776. The president's action is equivalent to what King Louis was doing and the directorate leadership of the French monarchy then. So we really don't need a dialogue. We are not going to use old maps to navigate new territories. Baba should just take a back seat and relax. We are going to sanitize this country.
Well,
to negotiate about corruption. It took President William Ruto 39 lives, 361 injuries, 32 unnecessary or involuntary abductions, more than 627 arrests, and 1 week to apologize to the people of Kenya. He referred to these young people as they call us gunzis now. They refer to us as a dangerous prisoners, criminals, who are basically invoking provisions of Article 37 of the Constitution, the freedom to assemble, protest, and picket. So I don't know how fast we've metamorphed from prisoners, dangerous prisoners, criminals, to the people of Kenya, or young people who can be engaged in a constructive dialogue. We know how scanning political class are. They are going to infiltrate the dialogue with their stooges, cronies, and sycophants. People who are going to want to be told, and they are supposed to, what they want to hear is supposed to be what they are supposed to be told. So we really say no to dialogue. You do the right thing. Dialogue will find us along the way. It is not an agency, by the way.
Okay, so basically, Sankara, thank you so much for your insightful. I can hear some people want to ask some of the question. I don't know, Joy, can you hear me?
Yes, before we let Wakili react, Changie, let's hear from people in the space. You've heard how vocal our Gen Z activist, Papa Kennedy Sankara, has been able to say what exactly this whole dialogue issue is about. So let me take Sarah. Sarah, can you hear me? Okay, Sarah is still fixing her, I think, mic issues. Naona pia kuna events. He wants to react to what our Wakili and Sankara have raised.
Maybe, Joy, before we go there, I wasn't done with my presentation. So probably what I wanted to say is that what the youth are saying is that we have lost trust with the political class, because these people have for a very long time used the youths to do their bidding, and this time round we are not interested in their strategies. So having said that, I would also want to make it clear that for me as an individual and from the people that I interact with or I represent who are university students, I have interacted with some, and there are some who are of the opinion that we need representation in that table. That is simply because if we are not there, they might end up again.
Can you be louder, louder kidogo?
They might end up again doing a report and then saying that few things that, the things that they want are the things that have been included in that task force report. So in my opinion, I am of a very strong opinion that when called to the table, we need to be there. We need to, whether it's, of course, not all of us will fit, but if people are representing different organizations, let us have representation so that we can air our issues. Thank you very much.
Okay, Wakili, asante. Naona hapa there's someone called Evans Anawashwa. He wants to really respond to what Wakili has raised. Evans, can you hear me?
Hello.
Yes, tunakusikia. Karibu.
Can you also have an option of going to take a court injunction for the stop the dialogue?
Did you get that, Saruni?
Because how can we be dialing with the analogs? Yet kuna watu wetu bado wako kwa mochari, kuna wale bado wako kwa hospitali, na kuna familia zao jaitwa pamoja hata for lunch na William Samoei Ruto. So I don't think dialogue is the way to go. Because tumekuwa tukidialogue mambo ya TRGC report, Waki report. Hii dialogue imekuwa to gimmick the politics of the day. I think dialogue with the analog is not the way to go.
Okay. I think I want to appreciate Evans for that question. And personally, I'm a student of international relations, and I am a student of diplomacy. So I want to say that yes, we can decide to go hard. Absolutely, that is our way that we can do civilian unrest and all that. We can take that route. But there's always another option that will not lead to more loss of lives, loss of property, and all that. In regards to going to court, if you look at why LSA went to court to challenge the task force on financial audit, it's simply because that duty has is directed to an office according to the Constitution. The Constitution provides that the office of the Auditor General is the office to undertake that mandate. But the Constitution does not provide for an office that issues of youths will be discussed. But I feel that if we are to go to that table, we can request or demand for an office that will be addressing those issues of the youth, not 6-day discussion. We can, these are things that we can actually look at so that in whichever government that comes, even after this one, we will have youth representation at that level. The Gen Z are youths right now, but in 20 years from now, Gen Alpha will be coming in as the youths. Will they still go to the streets for peaceful protest? If we can be able to inform structures in government so that generations are represented in government, I feel we will be doing justice to ourselves and to future generations.
Okay. Basically, Joy, basically, Wakili, there is something I wanted to know, because you've talked about, when you are starting this conversation, you talked about task force, forming of task force, and we understand there is a task force that has been formed to look into Kenya's debt, but we also understand that there's a court injunction that has stopped that task force. So I don't know which is the way forward now from here, because we have a task force that has been gazetted, and at the same time, there's a task force that has been ended with by High Court. So I don't know the way forward now.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. What I will say is that the task force that has been challenged in court is the task force to look on the Kenya's national debt. And that is simply because that is not the work of a task force. The Constitution provides that the Office of the Auditor General is the office that is supposed to do that job. You know, that is by assigning that job to a task force is equivalent to assigning other roles that are enshrined in the Constitution to a different body, you know, which is unconstitutional by itself. However, a task force is not an issue. Like having a task force is not unconstitutional. It is in order to form a task force can be formed to look into any other issue that affects the country. But on this specific issue of looking into the public debt, that is the work of the Auditor General, and it should not be diverted or given to another body.
Okay, probably I just want us to stick a little bit on this issue of national debt. And Sankara, from where you sit, we understand that Kenya's debt is beyond, I think, 10 trillion or so. I don't know, how can we get ourselves out of this debt issue, the debt distress that we are in at the moment? What are some of the...
Thank you, sir. Before I come to the debt, yes, let me touch on something on the question of the task force. Okay. The Constitution is not a creative convenience.
Okay.
The rule of law must be respected. Creation of a task force to audit our public debt is a usurpation of the roles of the Office of the Auditor General, as provided under the 2010 Constitution and statutory laws that governs public debt management. We have an office at the Treasury that collaborates with the Office of the Auditor General to audit public debts. So before we can speak, if the political class was as honest as the word suggests, and that's why old maps to navigate new territories. They should publish the actual debt of this country so that we, the citizens, get to know the actual information, because holding that information is also in violation of the same Constitution that provides the right to access to information. And therefore, public debt, as Wakili put it at some point, that it has been used as a mask or a scapegoat to subject citizens into more and fairer tax measures. That we have ways in which government finances itself. Number one is through taxation, and constitutionally it is our responsibility as accountable and responsible citizen to pay the taxes to the government so that government can find an avenue of financing its operations. We do that as a nation. Look at our revenue targets as a country. Compare our country to smaller countries in East Africa. I will not call them by names for reasons well known to all of us as far as international relations is concerned. But look at the tax or revenue targets in these countries. Look at their population. Look at what we raise versus their population. You realize that we have a lot of money. Our problem is not about taxation or revenue collection. Our problem is about expenditure. Actually, we have an expenditure problem, not a revenue problem. Our problem is fiscal indiscipline. We take loans. Out of the 10 shillings raised for revenue, 8 bob goes for debt repayment. And Article 203 or somewhere, we speak of the, how do we call it? The criteria or prioritization of national issues when we are doing revenue allocations. So the moment foreign debt servicing takes a huge percentage of our revenue, This 3% is what want to run the government entirely, especially a wasteful regime like the one presided over by President William Ruto. How do you expect to run an economy on that capacity? So we really need first to audit our debts, to know the actual debts we are owning as a country. People like Jimmy Wanjigi have come out to explain to us that we are paying debts that were never borrowed for the people of Kenya, neither did they land in Kenya. They were borrowed off air and they landed in offshore account. So that's why we really need a constitutionally mandated body like the Office of the Auditor General, who has been doing an exceptionally excellent work when it comes to unmasking exuberant public spending public revenue or finances by the people in power. So these are so-called the tax measures that are being put in place in the guise of paying debt. No one can raise money to pay debt. It is just unrealistic. We look at the things that are foremost to the people of Kenya. We look at security. How secured are we despite paying those taxes? How protected are we? What is our healthcare system? Today, an average family cannot afford healthcare services, even as near as the KNH or the Kenyatta National Hospital. How many Kenyans can afford the healthcare system that we have? But we have a president who believes that overhauling systems is all that can solve problems. If the presidency, which is a creation of the constitution, is corrupt, let's say today, as it is, are we going to overhaul the entire presidency or disband it just because it's corrupt? We really need to do away with people who are corrupt with the systems. And that's why I do say or have a divergent opinion that it is not the IBC, it is not the presidency that has failed us. It is the people in those offices, because these are offices that are created by the Constitution. So going forward, before we can tackle the debt issue, we really need to know how much are we owing to international bodies. Then the debts that we have, we've had infiltration of our economy by the IMF. And IMF and World Bank, or they are called famously as Bretton institutions. These are institutions, traditionally structured institutions that are meant to suppress, if not to keep the economies of African or developing world stagnated for the rest of their lives. Because you look at the tax measures that are being proposed in line with the international financial models, it is unrealistic. So the debt issue is not a problem. Kenya can pay debt, but we want to pay debt that we actually can see. When President William Ruto took over, the man in less than 2 months borrowed over 420 billion shillings. When Uhuru was leaving office, he left a debt deficit of 6.7 trillion, almost after 10 years. William Ruto came in, he has borrowed more than 5.4 trillion. And
okay, Sankara, it seems that you have some network issues. Maybe going forward, maybe I will also want to hear from our listeners. But as we continue the topic of, or rather the question of our debt, Wakili, from where you sit, we all understand that there's some issues to do with the register of our debt. And perhaps as you'll be answering that question, I also want you to talk about should probably the state ignore the court order of suspending the task force. Probably, what are some of the mandates that this task force will be looking into? Because some of us, maybe I don't understand some of the mandate they will be undertaking. Wakili?
Thank you very much for that amazing question. I think it's really a brilliant question to ask at this specific time. Now, if you look at whether the government should ignore the direction of the court, I think that is a direction that we cannot really take as a country, because Kenya is governed by the laws that are the laws of the land. So for separation of power, we need to accord each institution the powers and the capacity to function without infiltration and without being undermined. So if a court pronounces itself that it has suspended the task force, then it's up to the government to comply with that report from the court, with that court order, so that at least as a country we cannot we stick to the law. Now, what was your other question?
Oh, the question was like, probably yes, you've said if probably the government ignores the pronouncement of the court. So what is the mandate that this task force will be undertaking? What their primary roles?
Well, the roles that were indicated, including analyzing the debt distress of the country, just trying to identify and to conduct a forensic audit of the debts of the country. And if you look at all those duties that they were given, you'll find that those are duties that are supposed to be conducted by the Office of the Auditor General. So instead of giving those duties to another entity, the question is, why don't we empower the Office of the Auditor General to conduct its roles in a manner that it's supposed? Is it being underfunded? That's why it's not able to conduct the forensic audit of the public debt? Or what exactly is happening with the institution, so that we can be able to look at areas of strengthening the Office of the Auditor General to be able to conduct all these things?
Okay, thank you so much. I don't know if Sankara, you have something to add on it.
It is very unfortunate that William Ruto is slashing, budget allocation to the Office of the Auditor General, who is constitutionally mandated to audit public debt, then has the capacity and the audacity to create an unconstitutional office or the task force to audit debts. The presidency must learn to align its policies and strategies towards the fulfilling of the rule of law, because the Constitution in itself suggests that court rulings and court orders form part of the rules that govern this country. So the ignorance to the court orders is a recipe to anarchy. If a government cannot respect simple, valid court orders, what is the business of citizens respecting the rule of law? Are we not inciting people to anarchy? Are we not creating an environment of ungovernable citizens? So the people in power must always learn to lead by example. And I would say that most of the people in power today are products of the old constitution. Let me say so. These are people who do not understand the broader doctrine of separation of power in the 2010 constitution. And that's why I do say this constitution might and will and shall always teach people like President William Ruto very painful lessons, because they have to comply. Everything is well incorporated. The problem is implementation. We don't need new policies. We already have best policies. Like, just to deviate a bit, there was a time our parliamentarians left for a benchmark in Rwanda to see how dairy farming is done there. They were unfortunately informed that the policy they used to formulate to implement the dairy farm that they were going to benchmark was actually borrowed from Kenya. So that is a clear justification and indication that we already have best policies formulated on paper. Where we draw the line is implementation, and therefore the president must lead by example by respecting valid court orders, lest the people follow the same trajectory, which is dangerous for a democracy.
Probably, maybe.
Sorry. Probably, maybe if I could still hear something from Sankara as a Gen Z leader, still on the issue of the suspension of the presidential task force. If we bring in the Gen Z aspect or the protest or the whole issue about the revolution by the Gen Zs right now, how can these Gen Z activists or the youth activists that we have right now leverage on this situation so that they can advocate for, a greater transparency and accountability, especially in matters of public debt or management of Kenya's public debt?
Thank you. Once again, the genesis of this protest, and allow me put something clear. You mentioned as a leader of Gen Z. I am just a leader within the Gen Z movement. But the thing is, whatever the people, we are leaderless. We are leaderless, but we have an objective.
Yes.
An objective that is aimed at ensuring that there is adequate citizen involvement, institutionalization of citizen participation in governance structure as a whole. So to respond to the question of us leveraging on this opportunity to account for, more accountability. As a young person or as young people, you've seen initiatives being taken. Today, there is a law firm that has gone to court to request for financial information on the just hyped Olympic Games that are going on. We really want to know who are there, how much was spent, who authorized which payment. So these are how we are going to start on that simple basis. But as a people, we started with the finance bill. The finance bill was the thorn in the flesh. After finance bill, we are now moving on with a very high speed to ensure that we have accountability. How are we going to hold leaders accountable? We are going to make provisions like public participation, not a mere exercise in futility, but an exercise that respects the voices of the majority, where the voice of discernment or voice of reason creates a barrier between the popular legitimacy that the people pushes through their collective voice versus a simple minority or parliamentary majority, which is less than 300 people. So we really going to ensure that leaders are accountable to each and every activity, that financial activity, because as a procurement person, I believe in value for money spent. You have to showcase why we really need to pay this. If it's a matter of bursaries, that we are also advocating for the scrap of the CDF, because this is what is making overnight millionaires. You find like today, the Office of the Auditor General was asking the Kiminili MP how he ended up spending 26 million on bursaries whose payments could not be verified. This is an opportune time for us, the Gen Zs, to have a sit down with the Kiminini MP and help him understand how fiscal discipline is necessary in public governance.
Asante Sankara. Let's take in a question from David. I don't know if you can hear me, David. Wana, you have been David Indeje. As he's, because I'm seeing we are really pressed for time, and I'd like as much to engage as much youth and young people as possible. David, karibu. You can turn on your mic so that we can be able to hear you. Okay, I'm seeing someone else by the name of Abiud Maraka. Naona pia kona swali. Abiud, David, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, good. Go ahead.
I don't have a question. I have a comment. I have some remarks to make, not even a comment.
Sure.
Number one, from where I sit, I've been following the events that began with Analyst on the 25th of last month, although I know they began much earlier, around February. And where it is culminating to, I stand from a point of view that, yes, it is time we look at how different parties, how different players, in an inclusive way, they can sit down and have a conversation on how to move forward this country, because all the issues that arose as a result of the anti-finance bill 2024, it was just a trigger to so many things that relate to governance, how the Kenyan state is governed, and at the same time, some of the issues that have also emerged relate to issues that relate to Chapter 4 of the Kenyan Constitution, which is also one of the largest chapters within it. And at the heart of all this is money. The state needs money to run the government, provide services, ensure law and order, promote the economy, by doing so many other social economic aspects that improve the livelihoods of each and everyone who belong within it. Why am I saying this? One, I agree with Wakili when he says the task force that was gazetted, where I stand, yes, it is unconstitutional because we already have a body through the Auditor General's office that audits. Number two, we are not talking about auditing debt when we know precisely that we have government agencies that provide data on a weekly, quarterly, half-year basis. We have the Central Bank of Kenya. They have the weekly bulletin. If we take time to read through it every week, it is very easy to know how much debt we have from a domestic point of view and how much debt we have from an external point of view. What I understand, the external debt that Kenya owes its multilateral people is in dollar denominated, and it's above 60%.
Okay.
And noting that, how do we get the domestic debt? People might be asking, why do we have domestic debt? Every week we have treasury bills, we have the bonds, infrastructure bonds, and also we have euro bonds, and they have different tenures with different yields. And at play, we also have the Kenyan currency, which if it depreciates, technically our debt goes high, becomes more expensive to service. But right now, where the Kenyan shillings is at around 128, then the debt starts declining. However, there was a question that somebody had asked, how do we go forward? Number one, what comes to mind is that we need to improve on our exports, add value to the goods that we sell to other countries. And the latest data from the Kenya National Bureau of Statistics says that agriculture still leads. What are we doing on that front? And if we improve on that front in terms of value addition, that simply means we will be improving our manufacturing sector, which has been on the decline for quite some time, from the target of 15% growth of the Kenyan GDP. But if that is improved, then all the problems that we keep addressing, because for me, I'm at a standpoint where I'm saying we are looking at a very narrow lens instead of looking at the bigger picture. What we need to do is put to task government agencies that are in place, courtesy of the Constitution 2010, to do its work. We have the EACC. EACC, what I know, they don't have the teeth. That's why we have the DCI, then we have the ODPP. Then do we need to build their capacity more or not? These are some of the things which I'm looking like in terms of long term, in terms of addressing problems within governance.
Okay.
And then okay, for now, let me just allow others to speak, but if needed be, I'll be able to share more.
Okay, no problem. Thank you so much for your insightful. I don't know if Wakil, because I'm told we are running out of time. I don't know if you can add something on that, as well as Kennedy, if you can, whatever you picked from David, if you can add on something. Maybe you can start with you, Wakili.
All right. Thank you very much, Kevin. And once again, I would like to make it clear that as a country, we have money. It's not that we don't have money, but the issue is how is this money being used? You know, we need fiscal discipline for the resources that we raise, so that as a country we can be able to account for each and every shilling that is received by the government. If we are able to do that, of course, we'll be able to sort our bills, sort our debt, and live and develop our country. Because once we start going to these lenders, some of them come with a lot of conditions. Like if we go to IMF, for example, you'll find there are different conditions that they issue. And like a good example of some of the conditions they have issued include the rationalizing of state-owned enterprises. I think most of us remember a time when the president said that some of the public enterprises will be privatized. That is one of, the conditions that we are given as a country. Operationalizing treasury single account, we did so that all the monies can go to one basket. And others include performance-based financing of tertiary institutions, so that only tertiary institutions that can be deemed to be best performing are better financed. There is the aspect of carbon tax and climate consideration in budgets. There are wage bill consolidation, removal of subsidies. All these things are things that come when we go to such lenders and request for support. But if we can be able to use our resources, the taxes that we raise, we use them in a disciplined manner, we can be able to sort our bills, sort our debts, and even develop our country without going to institutions that will give us conditions. But as an individual, I want to appreciate the Gen Z for being actively engaged in the national affairs. And I know the discussion has changed all over the country. There is respect across generations. Initially only the old people could dismiss the young people as people who don't know anything. But right now we are getting discipline and respect across generations, and people are willing to listen to each other, and people are willing to even consider other people's opinion. And as we move forward, I still say that it's good to embrace diplomacy so that we don't again ruin our country. On June 25th, I managed to go to downtown, and what I saw cannot be spoken, because people are just looting other people's property, burning property. Of course, guns infiltrated the movement. And if we continue having peaceful demonstrations without sorting that issue, I think it will be better not to do the peaceful demonstration, because people are losing their property, people are losing lives and all that. And it's costing us more than I think we are benefiting from. We are benefiting. But so far, so good. And I want to encourage guys to continue being informed about the issues that are playing in our country at the moment. I want to finish there, and let me say God bless Kenya. Thank you very much.
Sankara,
if
you would like.
sorry,
Yes.
Sankara. Probably, Sankara seems to be, we are losing Sankara. Probably, Bwana David, I can see your hand up. Probably, if you can give us maybe briefly your parting statement.
Okay, thank you once again. My parting statement is relates to public finance, and it's what the Generation Z or the youthful population have brought forward. But I will need to put a spanner in everything that they have been doing. The budget making process in Kenya starts very early. That means, for instance, the budget making process for the financial year 2025-2026 will begin in August. And as per the law, which I remember, the Fiscal Management Act of the government is meant to produce a budget by the end of February every year. And by March of every year, the government also needs to have produced something that is called a budget policy statement, which gives outlines of the proposed budget of the following year. And then this is normally considered by a committee of parliament, and then a report is made by mid-April of every year. And this is now, and during this period, there is a lot of public participation where the budget policy statement and everything that relates to the budget that will take effect from July 1st is subjected to the people to make comments. So my appeal is to encourage everybody to take this process, to be committed when this particular process is taking shape from August all the way to the end of April. And on another side note, the Auditor General normally takes a while to furnish us the reports that are currently being read in the public. Because if you look at them carefully, the Auditor General has taken some time before submitting it to the public as audited reports. But as active citizens, we need to be very proactive in following the money. For those people who do economics, follow the money to the last coin. And this is the only way we will be able to have a transparent and accountable governance system. Asante.
Oh, thank you so much, David. And probably maybe the last point, if Sankara, you are on, I don't know if you are on, maybe you can give us your parting statement. Sankara, you are on? Okay, thank you so much. Probably it seems that we've lost Sankara, and thank you so much, Wakili, plus David, who has also joined us now as a speaker. Probably we are still talking on matters. The question of today is Gen Z redefining Kenya's approach to public debt? That's the question we were posing today, and of course, the backlash that we've seen today after the Azimio leader Raila Amolo Odinga suggested that this country needs a dialogue. Well, before I close this space, I don't know if Joy, you can hear me forever. You can hear me, Joy?
Yes, I can hear you, sir. And just to wind up, as our Wakili has said, and also Sankara and kila mtu mwenye amechangia kwenye hii space leo, from what we have been seeing for the past few weeks, for the past few days, all the events that are unfolding in the nation, it's very clear and it's evident that the power of Gen Z has exceeded everyone's expectations, even beyond borders. We are seeing youth are now rallying up in other countries like Nigeria. We are seeing people are calling for, more government accountability, and it's something that Kenya has awoken in many nations that we didn't know the impact would be this great. And also, as Wakili and Sankara have pointed out, that this movement has actually, I can call it this movement by the Gen Z. It has actually sparked a lot of conversation across various generations, both the young, the old, and which has made the public more aware of critical issues that are really affecting our nation. And particularly what we're addressing today is the issue of public debt. And we are seeing that from what we've had today, they've also highlighted the importance of why is it important for you or for the youth or for you as a citizen of Kenya to be informed or have financial education, because some of these issues we are already seeing from just this issue of the finance bill, how it affects you. Many people did not know before why, but ever since now the protests started coming up and kila mtu akaanza kwenda kwenye maandamano, we are seeing people are now more aware, even the people from just different backgrounds, people from different economic status. We are all united by one thing, which is having financial education in matters that affect you as a citizen. So this just that the youth are making a significant impact in Kenya, and of course beyond borders. So I'd like to thank our speakers, Wakili Saruni once again, and Kennedy Sankara, for sharing their insights on tonight's topic, is Gen Z redefining Kenya's approach to public debt? And of course, this is an issue that we are still watching how things are going to unfold in the next few weeks, probably in the next few days. Everyone is eager to see how the government is responding to some of these issues that are being actually being raised or matters of accountability. So on my end also, I'd like to agree with them, and I say let's keep pushing for transparency and accountability, especially on matters of how our debt is managed. So we'll be continuing with these discussions on Mwanzo TV. Next week, we will be still looking at matters of public debt within the country, and I promise you this is something that you really need to be tapped in and be informed in matters of the Eurobond debt and public debt in general. On behalf of Mwanzo TV, my name is Joy Chepto. My co-host Sewe, I don't know if he can be able to hear me. Want to thank you for tuning in and sharing your insights on tonight.
Thank you so much.
Yes, we want to thank you for sharing your insights. So until next week, have a good night, everyone.
Thank you.